A couple of things that I wanted to address in regards to this pandemic and how we have addressed it. If we focus on some of the unintended consequences, like for instance, we've shut down our economy for all this time due to wanting to quarantine people and protect ourselves from this virus. And so we're looking then at the death rate from the coronavirus that we've had so far. And if we then compare that to the number of people that have committed suicide due to unemployment and financial hardship that these quarantine measures have taken, we actually see that the people that have committed suicide is 41% more than the people that have died from the coronavirus. So I thought that was a very sobering impact. And then we can then look at other unintended consequences, like for instance, people that have not looked for medical care because they're afraid to go to the hospital because they're afraid to be infected, or maybe they don't want to burden the hospital. Or for instance, I have somebody that their son dealing with diabetes, and he called hospital he needed to come in, and they said, well, it's not an essential service, so he did not come in. He was not able to come in, and he ended up dying from diabetic coma. So these are some of the unintended consequences that we're dealing with, and that's why it is important to be able to get back to normal and get our economy going so that people can function and feel healthier and happier mentally. Also, another component is that we are also afraid of each other now, because we're thinking even though we're healthy, we could be spreading the disease, thinking that we're still infectious even though and we may have it, even though we feel healthy, we are completely asymptomatic. So the notion that we are then going to spread the disease, even though we are asymptomatic, it actually was a Chinese businesswoman that had a meeting in Germany, met with 4 German businessmen, and all 4, after she'd come, all 4 of the German businessmen, they got ill. And the businesswoman, the Chinese businesswoman, she was apparently asymptomatic at the time. This is what the businessman, the German businessman, was saying. And so there was an article then in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a very prestigious one. The only component that they missed is that they only interviewed these 4 German gentlemen. They did not communicate to the Chinese businesswoman. So they assumed that she was asymptomatic because these 4 German businessmen thought that she was asymptomatic, come later to find out that she was on fever-lowering drugs and she was experiencing pain and experiencing fatigue, so common symptoms in regards to the coronavirus. So she was not asymptomatic. So there's really no study, there's no proof showing that somebody that's asymptomatic can then infect another individual. So all of this is just based upon what people think. There's been no study, there's been nothing to prove it. And in regards to the mask, and what they've seen is that actually the Surgeon General is requesting people to not wear masks if they don't need to. Meaning if you're out and about, or if you're in a place where you're not concerned, then it's better, you're less likely to become infected if you don't wear a mask. And the reason for that is that they've done studies is that when people wear a mask, they're more likely than to actually go up and kind of correct the mask and fiddle around with in their mouth, nose area, and they are then more likely to infect themselves than if they did not wear a mask. So that is just a few points for today to kind of think about a little bit, so that we have a proper view of what's really going on today.